Hi friends, today let's dive into the Hunger Games! While Katniss and the Star Squad are in the capital, a little mistake happens. And by a little mistake, I mean completely fatal error that ends up killing people and making the others have to flee. A pod is triggered accidentally. A pod is a secret weapon hidden by the capital. Similar to those seen in the Hunger Games, they're used to injure or kill people.
A list of every known pod. These pods can trigger anything from bombs to traps to mutts.
In this case, the pod that's triggered releases a huge black goopy tidal wave. This black goo ends up killing Mitchell while he's stuck in a net. It covers everything in sight and has a horrid smell. In the books, it eventually just kind of peters out, becoming thinner and thinner. In the movies, it seems to be recalled away by something.
Game makers are still putting on quite a show.
Either way, in both cases, it again leaves a black goopy mixture everywhere. What exactly is this black goo? Initially, I thought it could be a non-Newtonian fluid. These types of fluid, but not really fluids, react differently depending on how you interact with them. If you're standing on a non-Newtonian fluid and you don't move, you sink into it like it's a liquid. However, if you're standing on it and you are moving, it becomes solid under your feet. This could explain how it starts off as a tidal wave, but then, especially in the books, becomes a hard texture you can walk on. However, that's not exactly how non-Newtonian fluid works, considering in this case, once it's dried, you can stand on it without sinking into it. So then I wondered if it's some kind of a slime mixture. However, again, slime doesn't really dry like this. So I decided to go back to basics, read over the chapter where we see this goo, and just make a note of every single identifying feature. One feature that keeps coming up over and over again is the smell of the goo. Katniss says it smells like tar. She also describes it as a black oily matter that's neither liquid nor gas. The fact that it's neither liquid nor gas makes me wonder if it's a liquid that's actually smoking a little, making it look like it's in between the two states. Black and oily and smelling like tar made me think maybe this is just simply tar. Tar has to be heated a lot to be used, to the point that it is smoking when it's used. This explains the fact that it would look like it's between liquid and gas. It's also described as being non-corrosive. They noticed that the substance that was on their boots hasn't actually corroded them at all. Therefore, they make the conclusion that this was made to poison or suffocate. I'll come back to the idea of poisoning or suffocating in a minute. One big feature of this goop that made me think maybe it's not tar is how it reacts once it's dried. Katniss describes that after a few hours it has the consistency of a gel. When walking on it, it stretches slightly as you remove your shoe from the ground. It then springs back into place with a squelching sound, and it doesn't leave any footprints.
I don't think we're gonna leave any footprints. We should move now.
It also holds its form even though it's stretching and moving slightly. This made me think maybe it's not tar, because of what I know of tar, it starts off as liquid and then it's solid to the point that you can drive a car along it. However, I've done a lot of research now to see how tar actually dries, and to be honest with you, it's not exactly clear what happens. What I have found out though is tar needs at least 24 hours to harden. Ideally though, you should give it 3 days before stepping on it. So in that time period between when it's a hot liquid and a solid state that you can drive along, it must be a bit goopy. If this wave was made of tar, it wouldn't have had time to harden by the time the Star Squad left the house. It would in fact still be in that goopy state. There was one thing I came across in the chapter though that didn't make sense with tar. Remember I mentioned earlier on about talking about poisoning or suffocating. Tar doesn't poison or suffocate you. Yeah, the smell is horrid, but it's not actually that dangerous to breathe in. In fact, studies have shown it's not even a carcinogen. And yet we see in the chapter that Gale smells fumes. He calls out that there's fumes so that everybody else puts on their gas masks. Obviously, if he's realized there's fumes, he hasn't actually had a chance to put on his gas mask before breathing them in. Gale ends up throwing up into a sink while all of the others are breathing safely through their masks. This is not a condition that we see happening with tar. However, because every single other aspect of the wave is tar-like, it made me wonder maybe it is tar. What I mean by this is Gale may not be reacting to the fumes. he might be smelling the smell of the tar, or especially the hot tar burning something outside. Remember, the Gale is under a lot of stress and pressure. That could be why his body is reacting in that way and making him throw up. So what he perceives to be fumes is just the smell of something burning, and his throwing up is due to stress. However, I'm not going to rule out the fact that it could be a toxic gas. We see that this tar tidal wave that goes through the street actually triggers other pods. It's possible therefore that it triggered a pod that had a toxic gas in it. This gas then released pretty much simultaneously as the wave went past the house. This would explain the fumes the Gale inhales. And it's also very possible that the tar was mixed in with a toxic gas, meaning as the wave goes by, it's also releasing its own toxic gas that would be used to poison or suffocate people. However, so many different gases can do this, it's very hard to narrow down which one it would be. Unfortunately for us who are trying to answer questions, Gale just yelling out fumes doesn't give us enough information. He doesn't say what they smell like, whether they have a colour to them or anything. I mean, I know Gale was being sick, but couldn't he have told us a little bit more about what he was smelling? What do you think? Do you think that the black goo is literally just tar and it's that simple, or do you think I've completely missed the point here? Please tell me in the comment section down below. And until next time, happy bubbles! Thanks for watching this video, and thank you to my Patreon brothers for supporting the channel. If you want to see any of my other Hunger Games videos, you can click on the box on the left to find out what Panem is like now after the war, or you can click on the box on the right to find out what would have happened had Katniss and Gale run away together. Thanks for liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and hitting that notification bell.